Welcome to the Impact Multiplier CEO podcast. If you're a chief executive, or if you think like one, and you want to create exponentially greater impact, then this show is for you. My name is Richard Medcalf, founder of Xquadrant. I coach some of the most successful and impressive CEOs and executive teams on the planet and help them achieve extraordinary results. And no matter how successful you've been in the past, there's always a whole new level of impact available to you. So, if you're ready to play a bigger game than ever before, I invite you to join us and become an Impact Multiplier CEO. In this episode, I speak with Thomas Jamet, who is the CEO of IPG Mediabrands France, which is the fastest growing media agency group in the country. And we dive into this question of how can you be a benevolent and a strategic leader. We look at what are the factors that have driven Thomas's own personal impact, how he managed to turn around what was quite a difficult situation for the company, and how do you actually maximize the impression that you make in every single interaction to create a compound effect that really serves you and the mission that you're on. So enjoy this conversation with Thomas Jamet of IPG Mediabrands France. Hello, Thomas. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm excited to have this conversation because I know that you've had a really interesting career with both as a CEO and in your current role, as well as actually having an entrepreneurial background as well. Today we're going to dive into your success formula, find out what your personal strategy is for creating impact. But before we do that, why don't you kind of give us a quick summary of who you are, what your company is, and just a little bit about that journey, about how did you come into the CEO role?
Sure. Thank you, Richard, for this opportunity. So I'm very happy to participate to this great podcast program. So my name is Thomas Jamet. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Mediabrands for France. So Mediabrands is the media arm of IPG being the fourth communication group worldwide. And when I say media arms, is the media agencies and the specialists in digital, in programmatic, in performance agencies of IPG Group. And so in France, we are 150 people, and I'm leading this operation for 6 years now. And before that, I worked nearly 10 years at Publicis Media. So I was inside this big French group, which is Publicis Group. And I was leading the strategy and then content, branded entertainment, and everything around creativity and media. And before that, I started to work in this great industry, which is the media agency industry at Karat, part of Dentsu Group, which is not Japanese, but it was and it is still a big French local agency. So this is my professional background. And before that, I was I'm graduated in political science at Sciences Po Paris, and I also studied law and sociology. I'm a fan of philosophy and sociology.
Absolutely brilliant. So so you've had a really interesting career, both as running a mid-sized organization with several hundred people, but also being part of these very large groups as well. And I know as well, I think I spotted something on LinkedIn that you're also a fan of Freddie Mercury. I think I spotted that somewhere. So anyone who listens to this podcast more than a few episodes finds out that I try to squeeze a Queen into every episode as a bit of a theme. So
like that. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I normally try to find at least some Queen quote to slip into every episode. We'll see whether I manage to do it in this episode or not. It's a challenge I set myself. So let's dive straight in, shall we, Thomas? So you've had these different roles, and you're now running the French operation with with the P&L responsibility and everything else. What would you say is your little success formula? So what are the 1 to 3 factors which represent, your genius zone, right? Which have really driven your impact in the business up to now?
So I will say, first of all, it's a very interesting question because it's very introspective. So, but it's something that comes out in every of the 360 exercises I am doing every year, which I think it's a very interesting exercise, and I encourage everyone to do that, because sometimes you see things that you don't want to see, and it's very good to improve. And I would say that the key success, I would say, is passion. Because to drive people, to drive a company, to drive also, the business success with clients, with multiple stakeholders and everything, and especially in our media, advertising, communication, digital industry, I think the key factor is to be passionate. Because if you don't like what you do, honestly, it's impossible. And you have to have this extra energy and passion, and to try to wanting to learn something new every day. This is exactly the promise I did to myself. How can I learn something new every day? How can I improve myself? Also, at the same time, because we have the chance, and I have the big chance. I'm very lucky to be part of an industry which is changing every day. We are in the middle of technology, of content, of the publishers, the new formats, the new the brands, audiences. So it's a kind of an amazing chance that I don't want to miss, of course, to make sure that with my passion I can drive myself and be able to be as motivated as I can personally, to wake up every morning and to do the same for nearly 20 years now. But it's never the same, actually.
So, yeah.
But it's always changing. It's always different every day.
So, yeah, I love that. And I say a lot of my clients I find are in tech or media or other fast changing industries. I think it's actually the speed of change that is kind of almost the most interesting part of things. And I love this focus on passion. I mean, I describe it almost as commitment, because I think a lot of people, I would say, are over obligated and under committed. And I think passion, when you say passion, it's also this sense of ownership and a commitment. Which I think in my clients I see, when you're really committed to creating impact in your environment, you go the extra mile.
Exactly, because if you love your job, you it's not work. It's something which belongs to you, and which is a part of you. So I think it's one of the key factors, I will say.
Okay, so I've heard of passion. I've heard about this drive to learn something new every day and take advantage of the changing situation. Is there anything else you would say would drive your impact?
Something else also I'm trying really to do, and it looks like it comes also back from the 360s and the discussions, and I have for many years now, is I'm really trying to be as a leader also, trying not to lead as a boss, by saying I want, by trying to I trust people, and I make sure that they are the best of their potential, because of the trust, and because also of the fact that benevolence is absolutely key. And I think that we can see that in these days, it's one of the major values that can be accepted by teams, accepted by people. And I think being normal, being not a boss which is frightening people, trying to command, trying to give orders, trying to threaten sometimes, which is, I think, the old way and the old world to be a boss. But I think being a leader is also to be to inspire people, to make sure that they can come to see you. And sometimes it's a bit it can cause problems also, because if you are too accessible, or if you are trying not to put any I would say distance with everyone in the company, sometimes people think that you are too nice, or you are too naive or everything. But at the end of the day, I think trusting people and make the choice every day of trusting everyone, and make sure that you can be accessible, as a leader, and not like the boss in the 7th floor that nobody can see. I think it's a bad choice to do that. And I think by being normal, being at the same level of everyone, I think it's the best way to make sure that that people will be happy.
Yeah, I love your comment about the, avoiding the I want, I demand this kind of thing, because you're right. The world has changed. I think there was a situation where people would put up with a bad boss because they were, well, I just need to suffer for this, and then I'm going to get there myself, and then I've got my job for life. And I think people just know now jobs are not as secure as they were, and people aren't prepared to put up with a bad boss.
Yeah.
If they're good people, they will often rapidly decide they don't want to work for this boss, they can get another job, right?
Exactly. Totally agree. Totally agree.
And so I think that's one of the shifts that's kind of been happening. And I think you're right about the challenge of accessibility, right? It's if you're not accessible, then it's really hard to lead your people. On the other hand, it can become, if you're overly accessible, there's a trap in that as well. So we've got passion, learning, trusting people. Is there anything else you'd add to the mix as a final element?
I will say also it's something which is also important is that you have to make an impression, and by that I mean that we are in a world where you have to have values. You have to make sure that these values are also performed by every one of us. And by that, I'm saying that you also have to make sure that you give people something, and I would say to the teams, but also to clients or to many people or many stakeholders we can have in this industry. To try to make an impression every time you see somebody. I mean by that every time you have, I'm trying to do that. It's not always easy, but every time I have, a conference call or a Teams call or a Zoom call or a discussion with someone or a lunch, when we had lunch a long time ago.
Oh yeah, remember those? They were good, yeah.
and I did that also this morning with a client, having a breakfast on Teams this morning, trying to give something to the people you have in front of you, trying to leave them with something to think about, whether it is something that it's not always has to be prepared, it's not something that has to be it's not something that has to be worked. It's something that in the discussion, I think that giving is the best way to receive also, and I think that if you are letting every of your interlocutors at every Zoom session or team session, even if there are 20 people or 100 people in the room, maybe I'm always trying to say something which will be something that the people will have a thought about and say, oh, okay, it's interesting. And sometimes it comes to talking to something else, of something else. I must say, if you're having a business discussion with a client, for instance, it's talking about personal stuff, talking about a movie, a TV series, a book, politics, and I think it's something that creates relations in a world that is so many. We have so many contacts, so many friends on Facebook, on contacts on LinkedIn or whatever, but it creates a link with people, and I think people won't forget this. And it's something I'm doing naturally because I love discussion. I love people and trying to connect. But I think it's important to give to receive.
Yeah, I love I love that idea of really being intentional about making an impact in each moment, right? Which I think is what you're saying here. It's easy to forget, right? But if you actually slow down and say every interaction, how do I add value to that person?
Exactly.
Then things rack up. That's great. So let me ask you, perhaps just to look at the dark side, right? So normally, every gift we have, there's a bit of a dark side, right? That occasionally, will kind of come back and cause us to stumble. So I guess, what's the dark side of being somebody who's passionate, who's always learning, who trusts people, who's focused on benevolence, who's trying to be normal and accessible, and he's trying to make an impression on every interaction. I mean, that sounds great, but is there a dark side, something which you feel has in the past perhaps held you back?
Yeah, I think the dark side is you can be very tired. So you have to have a lot of energy to be able to do this. and trying to catch the positive of everything. And I would say that if you are, I would say, snowed under negative stuff, then it can be very exhaustive, and you can be very exhausted if you are not, able to see the positivity of everything. So I would say that sometimes, and it's not, often something that people can see, and especially in my work, contacts or whatever, is sometimes you can be very internally pessimistic, even if at the external part of people can see you seem positive, but internally you say, oh my god, and you start to see the half glass rather than
half empty.
the empty glass. So I think that sometimes when you are trying to catch the positive lights, when you begin to doubt and when you begin to see the dark part of it, then it can be very destructive, and you can begin to feel very exhausted. So
Hello, it's Richard here with a quick interlude. These conversations are all about upgrading how you think about creating impact. So here's a resource to help you do just that whilst staying fast and focused. The CEO's checklist for challenging times is a quick way to enhance your thinking and detect blind spots, even when things are moving incredibly fast and you're not sure what's going to happen next. You can get this powerful checklist of 17 world-class strategies by heading to xquadrant.com/go/challenging times checklist with a hyphen between each of those three last words. Now, back to the conversation. So what you're saying there, Tom, if I understand, is you're trying to be benevolent and support everybody else, but that probably they give you all their issues and their negatives,
exactly,
and so you don't necessarily have the person yourself to support you in that.
Exactly, and trying to be very positive can be also something that could be very heavy to carry, because when you carry a kind of a weight of positivity, you give it to people, and sometimes people are not positive and cannot receive something positive, and then it starts to be heavier than if it was something I would say negative that you give to people, because when you give something negative, you're not giving, you're just spreading your negativity or reducing people's chance. When you are giving positivity, when you are giving something positive, when you are giving hope, and you are trying to uplift people, it's not easy, because it costs you every time.
And what are some of the strategies that you've tried to use to keep yourself energized and positive?
Yeah, so I would say that sometimes you can talk about habits, or we can talk about little stuff, but I love to talk about rituals, because really it's that. I think something which is very important to me, and it can be very small stuff. For people it will be practicing yoga, for others it will be drinking a lot of coffee, or doing sport, or whatever. For me it's reading, and this is something that I'm trying to do, of course, every day, which is absolutely key for me, and it's my yoga. Reading is a way for me to be able to travel elsewhere, to live in different worlds also, because I'm a fan of fantasy and science fiction, and it's not something to say that I could be I would say trying to escape the reality. It's much more to be at a moment during your putting your brain on off, so you are not thinking, you are not I would say trying to elaborate something, you are receiving informations, and for a moment it's good. So I think it's my ritual will be to open a book every morning, and to make sure that I have the time to do this. So it's not easy with kids, when you have kids, or when you have to walk the dog also, you have a call at 7 in the morning, or to travel, when we had travel, of course. But especially, this is why I loved to travel a lot. Hopefully it will come back at some point. Of course, we have to do that with the taking care of the environment. But open a book in the Eurostar to go to London, or in a plane. it's wonderful. So I'm trying to do that as
Yeah.
as soon as I can.
Yeah, I love it. I think, as a leader, we need to find those
Yeah,
rituals that energize us, that keep us
exactly.
energized, because you can't give it if you haven't got it. If you haven't got
Oh,
energy, you
oh,
can't give it out.
that's exactly.
Um, and I think you're right that changing, and really, like, sometimes, my kids laugh at me because I'll either be reading like some business book about
Yeah,
strategy or leadership or any of the stuff that I do, or I'll, like, they'll joke, or I'll be reading about dragons or spaceships, as you said, right? But the point is, it also takes you into a different place and gets you out of the very analytical way of thinking,
yeah,
which can
and
be valuable.
it also gives you a part of childhood, And
Yeah.
I think reading this kind of book is something which is very important to me, So I'm trying to select the book very carefully.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so I mean, that's talking a little bit about energy, but let's jump into one of the other impact multipliers, which is around accelerating learning, right?
Yeah.
This is all about building leaders, building high-performing teams, changing mindsets in yourself or the organization. And I know that, we were talking earlier about how you rebooted Mediabrands in France,
Mm.
and that
Yeah.
was like a transformation that you kind of led. Do you want to tell us a bit about that and what you learned
Yeah.
about shifting
Yeah.
learning and mindsets across the
Yeah.
team?
So it's a very interesting question because it's really related to what I did in the past 6 years at Mediabrands, definitely. So first, I had the chance to be part of a group that is giving chances, and I've been recruited by my boss at the time, who is still in the group, but number two of Mediabrands worldwide now. And he said to me, it's your business. It's your company.
Mm.
Do your stuff. And he said to me, which I was a bit surprised at the beginning. Oh, if you don't see me, it means that it's okay. It means that
Yeah.
there is no problem, which was a bit. But by the way, it's an absolutely great way to say to people that you trust them.
Yeah.
But he also gave me some advices, and this is something I did also naturally when I arrived at this position, because we were in a bad place. We were in a very, very bad place. We didn't win new business for many years. The company lost many clients. It was like it was a mess for many reasons, bad and good reasons also, because I think, in France especially, we are very, very dominated by big French players like
Mm.
Publicis, where I was. Of course, I
Yeah.
knew that. Um, and um, and sometimes the competition is not very, I will say, with a lot of, it's not very equitable.
Mhm.
So you have to figure out that you won't be the biggest.
Yeah.
So if you are not the biggest, because it's impossible for now, maybe tomorrow, but for now it's impossible, you have to be the smartest. So
Right.
it means that you have to make sure that you have a way which is very clear, and that you want to achieve this, and this in the next 4 to 5 years. And so my boss at the time, he asked me to do a 5 years plan, and it's the most interesting stuff I did in my personal
Uh-huh.
professional career, because it's something that I presented to the people of Mediabrands in France by saying, okay, this is the story, this is the plan. We will do this in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. And you know what? It happens. It happened exactly as I wrote it. And
Right.
sometimes it was a bit scary because it looked like, I came back to this document and say, oh, yes,
Yeah.
so we did it. We did almost, but not
Mm.
100%, but I would say 80 to 90% of what
Mm.
we say we will do at this time. We achieved it. And so I guess that accelerate learning, and in your question, or how you create a high-performing team, or
Mhm.
is to say to them, okay, we are here, we will go there.
Yeah.
And to go there, we need this and this and this. And so you just explain the plan. You just explain the strategy and the vision.
Yeah.
But I think to be able to focus what will happen in the 5 next years is a very interesting exercise. And I think for me, I'm also trying to do that because I learned a lot from my past boss at Publicis, which by the way joined me for 3 years at Mediabrands. Sébastien Danet, he was the CEO of Publicis Media, and I always admire his ability to, he's like a chess player, to think about the next step after the next step. So it's a bit like, okay, so if I take this decision or do this move, if I go left or go right, then this will happen, and maybe this, and then you can start to elaborate the plan, because you see exactly where it goes. And if you know where you are heading, people will follow, and be a part of it.
Yeah, I love that. There is a principle called the 5 moves principle, which is often like trying to boil it down to what are the 5 key moves. It might be like the 5 key years, like to get from A to B, the 5 key moves. And often one of the things I find when I work with, for example, executive teams, actually they might even have for the business that, right? They might understand, in terms of the business, what we need to achieve this. Often what they don't have is it as it relates to how they deliver as a team, and how do they come together, and actually, like, what are the 5 moves that we need to make as people and as a leadership team to deliver at a higher level and actually accomplish this. And I find that when you have the kind of the business strategy and the team strategy reinforcing each other, then it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean that if you have this transformative thinking, and if you want something in life, it will happen to you. So if one individual wants something, and if 100 individual wants the same thing, then you have 100 chance more that it will happen. So it's definitely a question of energy. So it's managing the energy of people. And when I say to people that I'm a chief executive officer, actually a chief energy officer, because you have to gather the energy of the teams and make sure that as one we are heading into the same direction. Because if there are political issues, or people don't like them, inside you can have conflicts and everything, then it don't work. If you try to get rid of that, and if you have 100 people wanting the same thing, then you can be sure it will happen.
Yeah, I love that. Chief Energy Officer. You're right. It's managing the energy and commitment of people. At the end of the day, when you release people into their best work, you can get out of the way, right? It's going to happen.
Totally.
Yeah, that's great. So Chief Energy Officer, I'll definitely put that somewhere on this on the blog post. Let's talk about the future. This can be a bit vulnerable for people, right? Because as I like to say, it was most of my clients, they're like you're flying at this high level. You've kind of achieved a lot. You're the CEO of France. And you've obviously found the success formula, which is working and delivering results in the business, right? You turned around this business. You delivered on the 5-year plan. I'm always curious to look at what's the next level, right? How you want to reinvent your success formula and multiply your own impact in the coming months or years. So I guess the question is, just to muse a little bit and reflect a little bit, what are you going to have to do differently yourself in the future? How's your own success formula going to need to shift? What comes to mind as I say that?
So I think that it's a very interesting question, and feeling vulnerable is very important also, because it's part of the reflection you can have on yourself. So I would say that maybe what I will do differently in the future, it's maybe also to take the best advantage of the what you call the secret sauce or the secret formula. But it is because to be more impactful, and to make sure that you have the right I would say impression on people and whatever, you have to be a bit more clearer. And sometimes, I think one of my bad sides, or maybe my biggest default, is to make sure that people understood exactly what I wanted to do. And sometimes, you have this idea in mind, so it's very clear for you in your head. And so you expect that the people understood exactly the same thing. And sometimes now it's not clear, because sometimes you are not formulating it very clearly, or it's too obvious, or it's to, and when you are very busy and doing many things and in the same day at the same time, sometimes you lose a little bit of clarity,
Right.
and I think I want to be more clear and more, I would say, explaining more stuff, maybe a bit more, be more in the pedagogy, or maybe in the way also myself I can reinvent myself, but by make sure that when I'm giving a feedback, it's very clear. It's not oh, it's okay, or it's good, or no, it's why is it good, why is it. And sometimes when you are too busy or too occupied, you can tend to think that people understood what you mean, and sometimes it's not the case. So I think, I can promise myself that I will be more make sure that everything is very clear, and that everything is shared.
I think it's a good insight. I think often people, one of the when you're a visionary leader, it can be hard to get everything out in your head out in a way that other people who don't necessarily come at the world at the same level, perhaps they're more operationally focused. How do they connect your thoughts to reality? And I think once we get that sorted, then it allows people then to execute, right? But often where there's a mismatch and when delegation becomes hard and when issues become hard, it's because, actually we didn't quite align at the start. I said something, but they heard something different.
Exactly. And I think sometimes it's also, but it could be hard, because it's a real effort to make sure that it's crystal clear, and sometimes when it's a bit in between the lines or a bit gray, so it's a bit like giving a bad feedback. For many years I was in the 360 studies, surveys, and everything on the feedbacks I had, is that I was very bad on giving bad feedback. I was bad on saying to people, it's not good, it's not okay. So I forced myself to do that. Then and I think I realized it's much better because it was clearer. It's exactly the same. You have to force yourself sometimes.
Yeah, I think what I found about feedback is actually making it really neutral, in fact, but just very, very fact-based. And then it takes it out. It's not good or bad. It's just, this is actually the observation. Hey, so we're kind of running out of time, but I'd just love to, perhaps before we finish, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing some of these insights. If people want to find out more about you, get in touch, or find out more about Mediabrands, how do they do that?
I think definitely on LinkedIn. It's a great way to connect. But I think it's the best. Otherwise, I think Twitter is also a great way to connect. Some for business leads or for contacts or for anything. So I would say professionally, it's that, and definitely it's great tools to use.
Perfect. Many thanks for that. Well, hey, let's leave it there, Thomas. It's been great speaking, and all the best for the future. Sounds like you've got a new level as you get clearer and more specific and get back into that genius zone, right? Which seems to be working so well for you.
Thank you, Richard.
Many thanks. Take care now.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Now let's talk about you. When you're in top leadership, when you're in the biggest role of your career, who supports you at a deep level as you lead others? Who helps you multiply your impact and get to the next level? If you're ready to learn more about our content, our coaching, and our community, then visit us at xquadrant.com.